What you are looking at is not a gargantuan Hinox-sized Korok, but just a standard regular Korok viewed from the perspective of an ant, or maybe a hot-footed frog. No matter how many hours you put into playing Breath of the Wild, there are some things you're just never meant to see through normal gameplay, whether we're talking about fine details everyone passes by while more focused on quests and combat, things we can't get close enough to like wildlife scurrying away or the habits of enemies before they go into attack mode, and other NPCs when Link isn't around, or places that are just plain walled off out of bounds. Now there are the popular questions people wonder about, like what's at the bottom of the Yiga hole or the seemingly bottomless Gerudo tower, and what lies across the uncrossable canyon or beyond the farthest reaches of the Gerudo desert. But if you could go anywhere, absolutely anywhere without limit that you wanted to go in Breath of the Wild, where would you go? That's what I've been asking myself while playing abnormally for several months now, and in doing so I've seen a lot of crazy, beautiful things. So come along as I share some of the most amazing discoveries I've come across while exploring Hyrule as what I like to refer to as a Breath of the Wild life photographer. I know, it's dumb, let's go. People love Kass. Have you ever looked at the buckle leather strap holding on his accordion? You can actually see the stretch marks or texture of wear and tear, and how the shade of red on that leather strap is lighter in color than the dark red of his sash, the gold buttons of the accordion itself, and how his fingertips actually move around on the different buttons, the triple diamond gray and orange logo in the center of the accordion, and his little utility belt holding 2 rolls of sheet music. What is that, a whole note? And how he taps his foot to the music and seems to be wearing some kind of footwear with the triangular logo or button. Kass loves the triangles, he wears them all over. He's got tasseled shoulder pads or sleeves, and he's got a little flower or flower hairpiece decoration holding up his 2 red and white feathers. I mean, if you get close enough, you can see his eyebrow stripes black and white. He's got that signature Rito rosy cheek thing that you usually see on younger birds. And what really gets me is the dark brown to light brown shading detail in the eyes. And since we have Kass out here perched on the edge of the Gerudo Tower, maybe now's a good time to take a look at what I call the twin holes of the Gerudo. Starting with the Gerudo Tower, peering down from above, you can see a cloudy sky. For the longest time I've found this super curious because obviously there's a sky always above. And so until Breath of the Wild was officially placed on the Zelda timeline, I used to theorize it would be placed before Skyward Sword, and that we were on some even more ancient version of Skyloft or something. But as we move down into the open abyss through the sky layer, we see the tower planted firmly at the bottom of this pit. Or is it? Moving below even this ground layer, further under the overworld's layer of water which stretches across the entire map, by the way, you'll see the tower extends quite far beyond even this until it just stops in the middle of nowhere out in the void. And don't forget this hole's counterpart, the Yiga pit. Heading down here, you'll eventually meet a pretty boring bottom, or so it seems on first look. We can tunnel through here a little deeper, and this is where things start getting pretty trippy. The walls look like they're made of sand, and there are some steep dunes or stalagmites of some kind. But what I was most surprised by is that there's grass down here. What a fine detail that you were never supposed to see. And on a jaggedy fault line, the dirt changes from a natural earthy color to straight gold soil. Below here takes us back to the water layer, where we can see there are 2 mountains of water, and from the top of the closer mountain, we get an excellent view of how the Yiga hole is structured from the outside. The beginning of what would be a chasm and what is in Tears of the Kingdom. In the distance, you can see the Sheikah Tower out there, and how that layer of sky is really just a perfect square stretched across the entire bottom. Viewing the Gerudo Tower from the perspective of the very bottom of the Yiga hole, we are perfectly aligned with that sky layer cutoff plane of disappearance, even though the Gerudo pit and the tower itself goes much deeper than the Yiga hole. And another fun observation I made about the sky layer is how when you get close enough it starts acting like the Lost Woods fog, and it turns on and off instantly as you go above and below this paper thin layer. One of the first discoveries I made while looking at the game this way was a creature I refer to as vanishing butterflies, or disappearing moths. They're so small, so insignificant, the game doesn't even give them an actual name. They're found all over the map, typically around small pools of water. I've found them in both white and yellow, and the yellow ones let me get much closer and look like butterflies compared to the white ones, which now I'm leaning more towards calling them moths. And recently I made another discovery, which I'm calling vanishing dragonflies. They have white bodies and white wings with blue tips, with bugging out green eyeballs. One thing I found interesting about these different vanishing creatures, the white moths shrink into nothingness, the yellow butterflies seem to disintegrate, as opposed to the dragonflies, which more smoothly fade from existence. Moving on from these tiny peaceful creatures, which may or may not have hatched from a cocoon of their own, let's take a moment to talk about Calamity Ganon. Taking an up-close look at his cocoon from the ceiling in the royal throne room, it pulsates. It looks like he's in there kicking around like a baby in a mother's belly, but more aggressively. This cocoon really reminds me of a beating heart. The veins or arteries, blood vessels, malice vessels, whatever they are leading to and from the cocoon also course with the hatred incarnate feeding the creature within. Now, if we take a look inside the cocoon, unfortunately there's no Calamity Ganon inside here, which would have been pretty cool. Looking directly to the ceiling above where the cocoon attaches, take note, you can't really see much. But what's most interesting is once Calamity hatches, we can now go back up to the throne room and take a look at his cocoon. And in the ceiling where it was attached is now exposed some Sheikah design. Not to mention the detail in the cocoon itself, it's all shredded, it looks like ripped fabric. And it waves around, wafting in the breeze from the broken windows of this room, which I thought was a pretty cool detail. It would have been very easy for the developers to just make this a solid, unmoving object, because you're not supposed to get anywhere near here to take a close look at it like this. So the fact that the old cocoon has some movement to it just kind of impressed me a little bit. And you probably never got a chance to take a good close look at Calamity Ganon. He's always kind of squinting his right eye.
His teeth are disgusting.
Jagged and spaced.
Crooked as all hell.
Some are broken. He seems to be missing a few. And one of these malicey veins runs down his face and over his upper lip into his mouth.
You can see it better in phase 2 when he's glowing in his exoskeleton.
He's got 2 normal hands, with 4 fingers and a thumb on each, with his nails grown out to look like small claws.
On his ancient razor claw, he only has 4 talons.
When you get close enough to his flame blade, the heat radiating off of it distorts the camera's view. And one of the more well-known facts are the pictures depicting different things around the overworld. We have Vah Naboris stomping around the desert between Gerudo Town and Kara Kara Bazaar. Next to that is the Great Plateau overlooking Hyrule Field. Hyrule Field continues on the next panel, and it looks like we see all the different roads leading through the dueling peaks towards Kakariko Village and the hills of Akkala and the Akkala Citadel, which takes us to Lanayru, where Vah Ruta is swimming around in the reservoir right next to Zora's domain, and I believe this is Shatterback Point. Moving around counterclockwise on the overworld map then takes us to Eldin, where Vah Rudanya is climbing around Death Mountain. And then heading down Death Mountain takes us to Goron City. And this, I gotta admit, is the cutest little depiction of a Goron I've ever seen. And right next to it there is the Lost Woods with the Great Deku Tree, although I don't know why they made his face look like that. And this takes us to the Hebra Mountains, and then on to Tabantha, where Va Meadow flies over Rito Village. And off in the distance are the Dragon's Blood trees of Tabantha and Ridgeland, which continue over to the next panel and go from light to dark to show how they're more in the foreground, and then continuing off into the distance to the Gerudo Highlands, with Satori Mountain not too far off in the distance, complete with Satori itself up there on top, which takes us back to the Gerudo Desert. But that's enough high-intensity stuff for the time being. Let's take a look at this cute little grassland fox taking a nap. As it wakes up, it immediately starts sniffing around for some food, and then takes a big stretch while it yawns. Then continues sniffing around and surveying its surroundings, looking pretty majestic if I may say so myself. But let's leave him alone to continue waking up and check out these nearby Marunda wolves. This pack here is just chilling down in the canyon, shaking off like a dog, laying down to take a little rest, all the while continuously holding a resting bitch face. They can't help but look perpetually pissed off. And checking out the inside of their mouth when they take a big yawn, you get a grandma what big teeth you have type moment. And I see this video as the pilot episode of a potential series of videos, because there's just way too much to talk about. I mean, I could go on for hours here. So let me know other things you want to see up close and I'll go digging in that dirt. Just like this guy wearing sandals with socks in his garden. For now, it's time to spin the wheel to see which one of my channel members gets the bragging rights today. Round and round, and today's winner is Longer Than You 609. Congratulations and thanks so much for being here. And thank you all so very much for watching this video all the way to the end. I had a really fun time making this one. It feels different, but it also just feels really cool to share. I really hope you enjoyed. I'll be back as soon as I can with more content, so until next time, stay cool and always keep punching out there. Aloha.